Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm so excited. The Executive Masterclass series, and we're kicking off the new year. At least I get to kick off the new year with you today. And I'm super stoked because when you start to look at what's going on right now in today's market, we spent a lot of 2024 really focused on buyers and how do we take care of them? How do we elevate ourselves? Well, I'll be honest, one of the big components that we need to look at is how do we take care of our sellers? And so today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about what today's seller looks like compared to maybe even 6, 9, a year ago, 9 months ago, a year ago. But also, I want to put some things in your pocket that you can implement this afternoon as you go and you meet with sellers across the nation. Sound good? Right on. Now, the cool thing about this, all of the executive master classes are all here on YouTube for you. So all you have to do, these are rinse and repeat. You can come back to it if you liked a certain script, if you liked a certain technique, or, oh gosh, what did that slide say? You can always come back to it. We want to help you build your business in real time. So on demand for you always. So strategies for today's sellers, let's get into it. And this is what I was really excited. I'm a little bit of a realtor nerd. I think you know that about me, but just in case, I'm the SVP for brokerage operations. My name is Holly Mabry. And what is so important to me is how we build your business. So as we start to look at what's changing, 2025, we've already jumped off with a shot. We've already had numbers released earlier this week as far as inflation. Well, inflation in December ticked up just a couple of points. What was so interesting about that is the Fed meets next week. I think it's on the 22nd, 23rd. We're not anticipating any rate reductions. Now, why is this important? Well, as we look at 2025 and what's changing, last year, 2024, whole 16 days ago, the average age of the seller was about 63 years old. Now, going into this year and next, that age group of sellers is likely to get younger. Why is that important? Well, when you look at the skills that you developed, your communication style, maybe your marketing materials, you really want to be real time for the market you serve in. I'm in kind of a semi-retirement community. So I'm really mindful that my text is super clean. I always want to use a larger font. I never want to do anything below 12. I prefer 14. I also personally turned 50 this year, so those readers come in handy. But what's important as we look forward, and this is coming out of Bright MLS, I really appreciate the way that their economists broke things down, kind of forecasting ahead for 2025. Now, for those of you who are not aware, Bright MLS covers from like Northern Virginia all the way up into New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and all parts in between. What's important about this is that's going to be a lot of metro areas. There's a little bit of rural, but a lot of metro. And so you're going to see younger buyers when I'm looking at this survey. So if you're thinking about your local market, what's common for you? What are you seeing? Who is living? Who bought in the last 5 years? So homeowners who are planning to sell in 2025, according to Bright, it looks like we're going to be right in that 40 to 49 age range, which is really interesting. Now, coming out of the 1,000-watt survey for 2024, 1/3 of sellers did not feel prepared. They didn't understand the experience. They didn't understand the process. So this is something to carry forward into 2025. If I'm looking at kind of upping my level of service, upping my level of how I show up for my clients, what are some things I want to put in your pocket? First, how do I prepare people? How do I help them understand what the process is going to be? And how do I get them ready to sell their house? And a lot of times it's going to be before I even meet them. But more on that in a minute. Now, the next thing I want you to think about is if we've got a lot of people that are younger that are looking to sell their home, one of the biggest impacts of the last 5 years has definitely been the pandemic. Well, coming out of COVID, I wanted you to see this. This came out of the National Association of Realtors. And if you follow them on Instagram with regard to their NAR research, it's fantastic. This graphic came from there. And what was so interesting to me, every state had substantial double-digit gains, with the smallest gain, if you will, So Louisiana at 24% increase since Q1 of 2020. Y'all, that's substantial. It's historic. It's unheard of. Why am I sharing this with you? Well, going back to that Bright survey, which is so really important, it becomes one of those who's selling? They likely bought in the last 5 years. So as a result, let's talk about things you can do for your business right now, real time. First, I want you to think about everybody you've sold a house to in the last 5 years. Who are those people in your database that know, love, and trust you? This is an opportunity for you to reach out and provide them with an updated statement on the value of their property. Maybe it's a very simple market analysis of, hey, if you were thinking of putting your house on the market today, this is the value. And oh, by the way, congratulations on your equity. Now, this is what's really cool about that. If you were to provide that generic CMA with a range, people may go, hey, I've done a lot to my house. I put in new flooring, I put on a new roof, I've got a new HVAC, I expanded the deck. All of those things add value. What's really cool is when you follow up with that phone call in step 2, say, hey, I just want to make sure you got that information. Did you have any questions? Is there something I should know? What's so cool about that opportunity is now you're connecting voice to voice, but also they get to show off what they've done to the property. They may not be ready to sell, but this is where you ask for the business. This is the next key step I want you to think about for your business in January. And I know we're halfway through, but this is easy to do. If you were to take 1 or 2 sellers per day for the rest of the month, or homeowners in your database, imagine the impact you could have in people understanding their value. The other thing I want you to think about, when you look at value in everybody's property, we've seen a lot of expenses go up. We started talking just a few moments ago around earlier this week that the consumer price index and inflation, it actually went up in December. Some folks, while they have this beautiful home that has a lot of equity in it, maybe they're living paycheck to paycheck. They're a bit strapped and they don't want to sustain that kind of lifestyle anymore. And they don't realize that they've got cash in their house. So as a result, they may look at selling, they could look at a refinance, but you hold tools that can help them unlock the value that they hold. And that's a really cool thing to be able to do for someone, to really help them out of a jam. Now, people aren't going to offer up front like, hey, I'm struggling. They're not going to offer up front like, oh my gosh, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, or that last illness, or when, our son broke his arm playing sports. Like all of those things, they add up. So how can we assist people in good opportunities, knowing that their equity in their home, especially if they bought in the last 5 years, could be double digits? So I want you to think about the resources and the people you have in your database that you can refer people to do. Do you have contractors? Who do you have at your fingertips? Because some of these folks, they may not be ready to sell right yet, but the opportunity when you reach out and call, you say, hey, love working with you. Do you know anybody who's like you that could benefit from my services or would like to know more about their home? They may have a son, daughter, family friend, something like that they can refer you to. And that's a beautiful match. That's an opportunity to connect and start to build relationships within your community. And it's all because you took the time to invest in someone. That's incredibly powerful. Now, this is the next invitation. We're also seeing a lot of people move home. And what I mean by that is maybe we're seeing multi-generational housing where parents are moving back in with their kids, or kids are moving back in with their parents, or you may have 3 generations under one roof. As a result, auxiliary dwelling units, zoning changes, all of those things are becoming a really hot commodity to be aware of what's happening in your local community. I was actually at dinner with some friends the other night, and it was so interesting. We talked about all sorts of things, from real estate to water to the new subdivision going in across the street. And they wanted to know all about it, but they also had their opinions. So the opportunity to sit, listen, and understand what they were truly asking and what they just wanted to know more information and maybe a bit of gossip around, being that resource, providing them detailed information as you go forward is a wonderful win and invites you into people's homes in a way that maybe most other professionals can't. And you certainly can't get from a website. Now, the one thing I will also say that was so impactful in visiting with these friends of ours at dinner the other night, there's another realtor locally who I absolutely adore. And he sends out, he actually did new home sales in that subdivision when it was first built. And he has continued to every single month with consistency send out updates on that market area, on that neighborhood. This is what's sold. This is what values are. If you have any questions, let me know. This is what's going in across the street. And it's like a large postcard. What's cool about that is these folks called it out and they said, you know what? We absolutely felt like he's been so consistent for us in sharing this information that if we didn't list this one way, we were going to list with him. And it was phenomenal. I mean, shout out to my friend because he did it with such consistency over the last 10 years that people really find him a trusted resource. So it may not pay dividends today, but the market shareables that you do with your client database, the things that you share, I like to call them a cocktail stat. If you're sending out a newsletter, I always had something that was hidden that would be like, oh, by the way, did you know the average sales price or the highest priced house that sold last week or whatever it might be. I was always throwing something like that in to any kind of communication I sent to my clients. Reason being, it was a recall. It was a single thing that they could share with friends or family because real estate always comes up. And when it does, giving somebody something that they can really sink their teeth into, that makes them feel good and important. But also when somebody goes, oh my gosh, how did you know that? Oh, my agent, who's so great, they share me all this information once a month and it's really cool. They call it a cocktail stat. So I always share it when we're out with friends. It's a great idea to kind of move the ball forward. Now, when you're doing outreach and you're that resource opportunity, I want you to consider how you show up for people. See, this is a masterclass, and mastery is a lifetime event. It's not something that's a one and done. I'm always honing and always learning. And one of the things that I've learned over the last couple of weeks, researching, getting prepared for you all, is the main reason that homeowners are looking to move in this next year. I thought it was really interesting. Family reasons is high. Job reasons, second highest. 26% of homeowners working remotely are having to return to the office. And what happened during the pandemic is they moved a little bit further than they wanted to. Nobody wanted to be in the city. They wanted fresh air. Maybe they started a sourdough thing. They've got a garden. Maybe they've got chickens, all of those things. But now that commute to work is not something they're willing to live with long term. They're missing their family. They're missing school things. They want to be at home faster. As a result, those are likely going to be a lot of folks we see put their houses on the market because family and job is really driving where we're going in the next few years. It was interesting also, 1/3 of homeowners planning to sell this coming year have lived in their home less than 5 years. Well, if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. They've got, double-digit equity that they've accumulated, and maybe they can buy up, maybe they can pay down debt and stay neutral. There's a lot of things that can be done. And being prepared in your marketplace. And again, this information here, it came out of the Bright MLS and their resource with their economist. Absolutely love following them. And if you go to brightmls.com, you can check out their economists and all of their data as well. What I appreciated about it is really getting that snapshot because I can see it in pockets in the West, just like I can see in pockets in the East. And what's so important here as we go to forward is understanding pandemic era sellers. Like this is the first time we've ever had this dating back to 1920 with the Spanish flu. Well, I kind of don't count that because I wasn't there. But also what's important is people are moving at the speed of light. The way that we live as families, the way that we communicate, the access to the internet and information is really changing. So things to keep in mind as you're working with sellers or getting geared up to prepare with sellers. Obviously, what are your current market conditions? How many active listings do you have on the market in your neighborhood or in your city or in that certain price range? What does that look like? We know that higher interest rates are impacting people's ability to buy, but check this out. We've had more loan applications, mortgage loan applications in the past 6 weeks than we've had for a while. And what's important about that is even though the interest rate is bumping up against 7%, buyers are getting off the fence. They're recognizing that they may have missed the lowest rate that we'll see for a while, and that was last September. Especially with the Fed forecasting, we're only likely to see 2 rate adjustments in 2025. Even though they meet this next week, we've still got that inflation we're trying to beat back. So all of that together, interest rates are going to stay above 6%. Our historical average is 7%, so we're winning. Also, I want you to work with sellers as they start with the end in mind. Now, let's break this down. What does that mean? Okay, starting with the end in mind really is about, okay, where am I going to go when I sell? Have I picked it out? Do I have an idea? Do I have something nailed down? Do I know how much I'm going to spend? Do I have financing set up? Do I need to sell first? All of those things. Because of the aggressiveness of the market the last few years, many sellers held tight. They were nervous to move. It was almost paralysis. But now we've got this opportunity to take the ball and move forward. But you still have to start with the end in mind. Where are you going to go? What does it mean? Are you willing to rent? Who's going to be working with you? Do you need to worry about dogs? What about the kids in school? Do you have a job consideration? All of those things that make a difference in where you list your house, price-wise, how long you're willing to be on the market. And we're going to talk about that. Pricing, time on market, what are the pain points that many sellers experience? Because again, if we're looking at folks who maybe bought their first home in the last 5 years, they've never sold before. They need to be walked through each step of the way. And to be fair, even if they have bought before, if they haven't bought in the last 6 months, it's a brand new world. There's new forms, there's new negotiating strategies, and the internet continues to evolve in the way you and I market and sell houses. So preparing to be market ready is going to be really key. Some buyers got in by the skin of their teeth during the pandemic. They maybe were in a bidding war, they got in, maybe they paid a little bit more than they wanted to, and that extra cash that they used to get in, they didn't get to apply to those improvements that they had hoped to. So as a result, that 1 bedroom is still Pepto-Bismol pink. Maybe the roof needs to be repaired. Maybe the back lot just didn't get cleaned up as much as they wanted, and they didn't put in the new deck or the pool or the shed or even knock down the weeds. Now, loan and qualifying challenges can also come up here too. How much is their credit card debt? Are they overextended? They may have all this equity, but if they're writing at 60 or 70% of their credit card usage, that can be problematic. And then finally, we've also started to see the appraisal changes. And I know we've been communicating that out to you through the big agent meeting and your state newsletters. What's important around this is we understand that the appraisal changes are designed to make it easier to get appraisals through. That being said, you're less likely to have somebody come actually to your house and measure the property. It's going to be done by a desktop version. As a result, the ability to contest the appraisal is kind of going away. What's online is truth. So the more accurate you and I are in our pricing, in our description, in our photos, that's going to make a world of difference. And so as we're educating our pandemic sellers, oh my gosh, this is what you need to know. And we're going to walk through this step by step by step. They understand the value in hiring you as a professional. You're doing this every day. They're doing it maybe 2, possibly 3 times in a lifetime. And that makes a difference. All right, let's dive into pricing strategies. Because at the end of the day, like usually when somebody calls, they're like, how much is my house worth? And they want to know over the phone. You haven't seen it. You don't know if they're still living in 1990 with the salmon countertops, like all of those magic things. So here we go. We're going to talk about pricing competitively. And this is where equity goals and market realities, they can be in conflict, but they also can be in balance. And you can help them with that. The first is strategy and a range. I want to show you how to price in a range. That way, the seller is not hung up on a single number. They're working within a range and they understand what that could look like. But then also, we're going to break it down into tiers, how that looks, what it looks like, and getting their comfort level. And then the last thing I want to say on this as we go to the next slide is we want to look at what's been under contract in the last 45 days. Under 45 days, That's our next bride, not a bridesmaid. When I'm selling property, I always tell people, I never want to be a bridesmaid. I'm not here to help sell somebody else's house. I'm here to sell yours. So let's price accordingly. All right, so highlight updates since the purchase. Like, I want to know, what have you done? Landscaping? Did you update lifestyle things? Did you add an RV garage? What's going on? Like, did you paint? Did you add a bathroom? Like, all of those things. Flooring upgrades. Did you take out the nasty carpet? All of it. Then we want to walk through, what does it look like in the cost of sitting? And I mean, the perception of a buyer, if they're scrolling through the portal that they get sent from their agent via MLS, man, if they've seen it too many times, they're like, what's wrong with that house? And so passing the portal is deadly. We never want to be passed up in the portal. We want to have just enough, like, fish on. I want to hook you a little bit. I want you to be enticed to come take a look and tell me what's going on that would maybe attract you. But buyer negotiations, what's standard? What are we seeing in the marketplace? Are they asking for a lot of repairs? Are they asking for closing costs? Are they asking for rate buy downs? Those are all things that help maximize where we're going to be with our sellers. Now, what gets really exciting in pricing competitively, this is the range. I always want you to think about a $5,000 to $10,000, maybe slightly more range. When you price in a range, that way your seller doesn't become fixated on a single number. Because the minute you give that number, they go, oh, I'm worth more. Right? I mean, we've all been there. It's totally happened. It's like you give a number and they're like, nah, I'm higher. I want to go higher. But if you give a range, now when that offer comes in and maybe it's 2, 3, 5, 10,000 lower, now you can, the range, you can pull that CMA back and go, okay, let's look at our ranges. What makes sense? Now, the other thing I will say is, don't price on the nines. Anybody know what I mean by that? Yeah, you don't price on the nines. When you price on the nines, we used to do this all the time. It's like $19.99, $199. See, it's not 200, so you automatically, I'm getting a deal. This is the thing with the internet and the way portal searches work. You always want to price on the even numbers. You could do the fives, but I'm a big fan of the even numbers because that's usually how a lot of the portals work. You will see that range where people will go up to 350, up to 400, up to 420, 440. On occasion, you'll see 425 in there. The reason being, if you're priced on the 9, you stay in that lower number. But if you price on the even number, you may get above and you may get below, so you'll get more eyeballs. Just a thing, and it's something you can play with your sellers. I know that we've got some sellers who are very specific. Maybe they like numerology. Cool. I live outside of Sedona. I've seen all of that. I get it. Work with your seller. Give them a range where you can. Don't price on the 9s. Now, pulling comparables. I always walk in having a list of all the sales in the last year, even if it has no relation to that property, because inevitably somebody will go, oh, Barbara's house sold 2 streets over, and it totally was great. Barbara's house sold 3 years ago, and she had 5,000 square feet more, but I've got that list. I always want to be prepared. The worst thing I can do is walk in and go, I don't know who Barbara is. I always like being prepared, because sometimes in many markets, and I think we're still going to be in this market in a lot of ways, is a one-time listing. Like, I'll have one shot to come in, present everything, and get you an update. Now, when I first started in the business a while ago, I was able to do a two-step listing. But as the market heated up, I went in with a one-step listing. Now, I would always ask for permission to come back and fine-tune and really dial in, because I wanted to make sure we were maximizing value. But if I had missed something in my initial online review, especially with our COVID buyers that are now sellers, I probably know the house pretty well. So pull those sales from the last year, 18 months, pull the sales from the last 6 months that are most related to the seller and that subject property, but also be looking if they've got anything unique, auxiliary dwelling unit, they've got a swimming pool, they have a walkout basement, anything like that. You want to make sure you have at least 1 or 2 that are similar, comparable sales that are similar to that. You're wanting to go back 6 months. Y'all, anything more than 6 months, is probably going to be a hard stop by most lenders. They're going to stay very close to 6 months. On the odd occasion, if you're super rural, they might go further, but it's going to be an anomaly. So be very, very thoughtful there. Then I'm going to pull all my active listings. And then finally, this is the 45-day trick. I love looking what's gone under contract in the last 45 days. Those are our brides. Those are the ones that people were like, yes, you. It could be price, it could be condition, and it could be terms. What was going on with that property? What did they offer up front, or what were they willing to do? Are they offering home warranty, prepaid HOA fees, prepaid snow removal? I'm in Arizona, so sometimes that happens. Maybe it's prepaid landscaping. All of those things, what was available to help drive that buyer to saying yes? That's the key. Now, let's talk about pricing tiers. This great graphic I've got for you is a couple of different ways to think of your ranges. The first range is wholesale. These may be your folks who bought the house in 1970 and are loving that avocado green stove. They're not moving into this decade, not even this century. Forget it. As a result, they are not able to do any repairs. Maybe these are your folks who are looking at moving in with family. They're moving into a nursing home. They have no cash on hand. Their cash is their house, and they're not going to spend another penny on it. This is a wholesale price. You can still list it. It doesn't have to go to an investor necessarily, but you could have somebody come in and go, yep, I'm going to buy that. I'm going to fix it up, and I'm going to put a higher price on it. That absolutely may happen. And that's a really good conversation to have with the seller. It's really important also to have with the seller, like updating them, seeing what's going on. Now, retail some repairs, these could be your folks who are like, roof needs to be replaced, or it needs to be fixed, or yeah, we've got the Pepto-Bismol bedroom. My daughter was a princess, but she moved out. So yeah, those are the folks that maybe they're willing to do some repairs, but not all. They can get a little bit higher price, and that could be good. That's where you really have to look at what is the rate of return for what they spend. They may not always get dollar for dollar. If it's something that's going to keep them from getting the right buyer, okay, great. Roof, we may need to do, especially if it's missing a whole bunch of shingles. It may not go FHA or VA. So let's get a roofer in there. Let's get an estimate. Let's understand, is that something that can be done during escrow prior to close and get paid from escrow? Like all of those things that you're really good at doing. Now, the final one is retail premium with repairs or upgrades. And this is where I love that as a company, we've partnered with Curbio. So Curbio can come in most of our metro areas and say, hey, these are the things we would recommend, licensed contractor. This is what it would cost you as a seller, and we'll get paid at close of escrow. Now, if you do all these repairs and the seller goes, wow, I don't want to move. This is exactly what I wanted. Great. They can pay off that loan with Curbio and live in their house. It's fantastic. But they have to make that work. And that is one of the things that we may need to see in some of our pandemic purchases, because folks moved in, maybe they didn't have money, but they want to get their maximum value out. There might be some things that they have to take a look at, especially if they've got anything that is leaking, it's not going to pass FHA or VA. We probably need to bring it up to that level to be able to move forward. Now, I love this. I always am a firm believer in asking the next best question and digging a little bit deeper. The more you and I can do that, it's really about, as Ted Lasso says, stay in curiosity. But it's more than that. I think when you and I can take a moment and really understand motivation by asking a question and letting the time elapse for somebody to give a proper response, y'all, that's winning. That's winning at a super high level. That attention to detail allows you to take people from a 6 experience to an 11 experience. And it's really a big difference. One of the keys that I always love opening with when I'm visiting with clients is, hey, are we going to price for time or money? And that's a really big key, because there are some instances right now where folks have got to go. Their lifestyle or their family situation has changed. Their health, maybe a divorce, maybe a new baby, maybe a marriage, maybe it's a job. Are we pricing for time or money? And their ability to move and move quickly is really important. So pricing in such a way that allows them to realize their next goal and open that next chapter is critical. So sometimes taking a little bit off the top allows them to move faster. Maybe they've already got a house they've identified. Why wait? Go get it. Waiting, you may lose that property. So there's a balance there. Now, the other thing I will say on this is when you sell, have you identified where you want to be? And we talked about, planning for the future and really planning for their next. The number of times I've sat across the table from homeowners and asked that question, they were like, well, we hadn't thought about it. And these were, I love my first time homeowners who are now looking to move up or make a life change or whatever. And I had this couple that I absolutely adored, and we were visiting. They said, yeah, we're going to move to Hawaii. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. And they said, but in order to move to Hawaii, we need to save a little bit of money. So we're going to sell our house now, we're going to rent, and then we're going to move. And I said, okay, have you looked at rentals lately? And they said, no. And I said, have you identified a rental that might work? He said, no. And I said, you've got dogs, right? He said, yeah, we've got 2 big dogs. And I said, okay, before we go any further, I can give you a range of what the house should sell for, how the time frame, all of these things. However, if I were to put your house on the market, I would probably have it under contract and probably closed in the next 30 days. And you would have to move. So as a result, if I don't have a rental lined up for you with 2 big dogs that's affordable, let's talk about your house payment right now. And I think they were at something ridiculous, like $900 a month. I said, with 2 big dogs. And I said, okay, let's look up rentals real fast. And so I looked up rentals. I had my cell phone, pulled up realtor.com, looked at a couple of different things. And I said, the average rental without dogs is about $1,500 a month. So let's talk about your cost savings. What have you budgeted for? And they thought they were going to be able to lower their costs when really they were going to almost double them. It's really important to walk people through that. And guys, I love this question because you want to talk about building trust. This is where you start. Asking these questions and connecting the dots to how the market works and what it looks like. But it also gives you a pretty substantial flex because you're starting to take people on this journey of what they want to accomplish and how you can help get them there. You don't get them there. They get themselves there, but you shepherd them in that way. And these questions help with that. Now, I love asking also, hey, what would make your transition smoother? What should I know? It's so cool to ask that question because then people come along and they're like, well, we need X, or I need so-and-so to approve it, or I don't know about this. People will tell on themselves. And the hardest thing you and I will do is stay quiet after we ask a question. I know that sounds silly. Try it tonight at dinner with your family. Ask a question and then just, it's so painful. It's so painful. And some of you who are really high C in your personalities are like, it's not painful. I just wait. No. The high D's, the high I's, you all feel me. Yeah. What would make this transition smoother for you? What would help you? And then just being quiet and not responding, just taking notes, being thoughtful, leaning in. It's power. It's so much power to help somebody accomplish their dreams because you're listening. It's such a cool thing. Then finally, hey, is there another decision maker? And that's such a cool question also because, yeah, sometimes they've got to consult an attorney, a CPA. Maybe they're getting money from mom and dad, or maybe they've got a hard money loan. That allows you to also construct, hey, are we looking at additional contingencies I'm not aware of? Does somebody have to review your paperwork for you? Is there another co-owner on the house that's not available? Like, what's going on here that we can do together and take care of business? Now, let's slide into marketing. And this is where hats off to Wendy Forsyth and our entire marketing team here at eXp. They are killing it for you guys. And if you haven't seen Wendy's masterclass, chef's kiss, guys, go back and watch it. It is so awesome. All right, so some strategies I want you to think about. Tech. Did I mention tech? I want you to leverage AI, not in photos. I want you to leverage AI in your descriptions. Talk about what's about the house. What should we know? I want you to leverage your descriptions of how it looks. But this is the thing. The buyers we're seeing right now, the average age of the buyer is going to be in their 30s, mid to like 35 to 38. And that's the projection going into this year. So as a result, if that's our first time home buyer, they have everything on their cell phone. They're so used to instantaneous. Also, with the practice changes this last year, they're not sure if they want to sign stuff. They're still trying to get this feel of like, what do you mean a buyer broker? What do you mean all of these things? Okay, as a listing agent, remove the pain, remove the friction, get in front of it. I want you to show me before. Show me before I have to sign something. Show me what I need to know that actually drives me to want to look at this house. See, all that means high quality photos. You're hiring a photographer, and you're also putting the photos in the order, not front of house, front door, portico, flowers by the door. Please stop doing that. The first 3 photos are what sell a property. They hook and bring people in. Yes, curb appeal means a lot, but then what's sexy next? Tell me about that house. What's so cool that I can't live without it? Show me the house in the first 3 photos. You go past first 5 and I'm out. Like seriously, how many of you are scrolling at night on while you're watching TV or a movie with your loved ones and you're scrolling? 5 Mile death scroll. Like we're all going to have carpal tunnel. So as a result, show me before. What do I need to see? What does it feel like? Do I have a feel for the neighborhood? Can I get a feel for what's going on? Do you have aerials? Is there video? Like what's going on in this way that really drives me to connect to that property? And then information on demand. I can Google anything. I can Google how to change the oil in my car. I can Google how to fix my washer or dryer. I can Google how to make dinner tonight that's like a 5-course meal. But I can't Google what's to be disclosed on this property. Y'all, stop it. We have got to do a better job explaining what comes with this property, what they should know about, what is important in the area. Like be that resource that connects. Do that for your seller because these buyers want to know before they get in their car and drive across town or jump in an Uber, whatever it might be. So really drive home the information up front. And if you're looking at your website and that IDX feed that's coming out, cool. Is it substantial or not? Might not be substantial. So how are you improving your online presence for your sellers? Now, lifestyle is a big thing. We saw a lot of people wanting to move in the next couple of years because of family was number 1, job number 2, lifestyle number 3. And this could be anything from, hey, I want to be closer to be able to do these kinds of things in my life. I live rurally. I live in a small town on purpose. I literally can be in Forest Service in 2 miles. That's fantastic to me. I can mountain bike, I can kayak, I can paddleboard, I can hike, I can do all of these things, but that's so important. So lifestyle-wise, I'm willing to pay for it. But when you think about the clients that you're working with, do they need metro access? Do they want access to the dog park? Is it certain schools? Do they need a pool in their backyard? Do they like to entertain? My favorite question to ask buyers, how do you like to live in your home? Do you like to cook? Do you like to entertain? Do you like to enjoy a quiet nook with a good book and not be bothered? Are you an outside person? Do you like working in the yard? Do you like having somebody work in the yard for you? What's important to you? And that lifestyle, that's where your property description in AI, the photos, what matches, but also what can I expect if I live in this neighborhood? Am I close to being able to experience favorite coffee shops or shopping, post office? What does that look like? And that's really, really important to a lot of people. Now, the other interesting thing, many buyers today are planning for the long term. They're literally planning on staying in the home over 20 years. On average right now, it's about 11 and a half. In metro areas, you're pushing 15, 16 years. But when you have a buyer who's saying, I'm going to live here the next 20 years, like I'm 50. If I were to go buy a house today, I would be saying, hey, I'm going to retire here. So they're looking at everything from, are the doors wide enough if I've got a walker or a wheelchair? I had a client who that was really important to her. She wanted to make sure, she was a physical therapist. She wanted to make sure she could do a walker through the house. She wanted a step-in shower or an entry-level shower. I've had married couples or single folks who are like, yeah, I'm getting married in the next year. And when we have kids, I don't want the bedrooms downstairs. I want them upstairs. Or I want to make sure that, I can see the family from the kitchen. I like to entertain, like all of those things become really, really important. Planning for that long term. What does your life look like today? Are you getting a puppy? Talk about a lifestyle change. Everybody gets a puppy with the biggest paws that suddenly eat a couch and no longer can live in 800 square feet. So they go buy a house. When you look at your marketing, how are you speaking to those different segments? What does your house scream out? Is it, oh my gosh, buy me because I have wood floors that are totally indestructible for all that life brings? Cool, all that life brings. That sounds pretty awesome. Well, I'm not talking about protected classes. I'm not talking about animals. I'm not talking about kids. I'm not talking about, you know what I mean? Get descriptive, talk about what's going on, and it makes a difference. Now, I was shouting out our amazing marketing team. This was put together and launched for all of our agents at eXp Realty just last month. Canva Pro, y'all, this is on steroids. The amount of information that you can do in here. And what's so cool is you can pull directly from MLS, like I was just talking about, your photos, maybe your description. You can put it into Canva Pro and you can start to make all of your social media stuff, whether it's your Instagram reels or things that you want to put out on websites, maybe open house flyers. You've also got access to the eXp branding kit, which is everything from email signatures to open house, the listing app. Do it all here on your phone. It's a way to level up how you show up for your sellers and buyers and just that next level. So don't stop. There's some really cool things here. And especially with AI integrations, why wouldn't you? It's part of being with us. It's part of being at our company. Now, let's talk about your competitive advantage. I know if you took a lot of classes from maybe folks outside of eXp last year with the process changes, everybody was talking about how we show up and what it looks like and basically your value proposition. And I'm a big fan of value proposition, but let's level it up a bit. Let's talk about your competitive advantage. How you show up for that client is really about their benefit. That's the competitive advantage. Listing with me at eXp over someone else is a competitive advantage. And let me show you how. So the first is narrowing down with them. What's in it for me? Anytime you are putting together your marketing, whether it's for a seller or for a buyer, we were just talking about marketing the property, understanding that you are solving the problem for your client, whatever that problem is. And your goal is to identify what that is and how you help them with it. I'm going to save you time. I'm going to advocate for you and keep you out of trouble. And I'm going to save your sanity. I'm your advocate, and I know how to negotiate for you with contingencies and contract clauses that will protect your time and your money. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? So when you look at your WIFM, how do you show up for somebody? How do you take care of them at that higher level? Now, I always want you to be providing a clear path. This could be checklists in your listing kit. This could be checklists that you follow up with regularly after each conversation with your seller. And it's like, okay, thanks for taking my call. As we discussed, boom, 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 and what you can expect next. Because when you and I remove that guesswork, what allows that to happen is folks aren't left wondering. They understand. They know what to expect from you. And oh, by the way, sometimes you only get one of the parties on the phone. So if you have two sellers, maybe a married couple, husband and wife, or maybe parents and a child, whatever it might be, maybe you're only talking to one. And when that happens, the other one doesn't know. And sometimes they don't get all of the secondhand information. It's not communicated as well as it would coming from your mouth. So your ability to follow up with an email saying, thanks so much for taking my call, as we discussed, and you lay it all out for both of them. So there's total clarity. And then you invite additional communication, questions, anything like that. But you lay out what happened, what's next, what happened, the decision, and what they can expect. That's an empowering thing when we look at how we take care of our sellers. In 2025, people want to feel in control. There's a lot of stuff that they're not in control over. It can be as simple as their hair on any given day. So when you think of how you can help people feel in control of something that's very significant in their life, the single largest financial transaction, and you're going to help them feel in control by giving them choice and decisions and connecting those dots, y'all, that's power. That's a magic thing that you do every day, and it makes all the difference in the world. Because when you and I build trust with organized communication and walking through all of that, it's next level. Providing an if this, then that in that choice. What I love about this concept of if this, then that, you're kind of forecasting the future. And when you and I can do that, and then it happens, we look amazing. Heroes, almost, but I'm going to just say amazing. And what's so cool about that is when you and I do that together and we share that with our client and we're consistent in it, we're following up and we're telling them what they can expect, y'all, that makes a difference because now you're connecting the dots between choice and result. They understand the process. We've already heard that 1/3 of sellers last year did not feel like they were prepared or understood. That's scary. That's millions of people who are like, I don't know. I don't know if we did a good thing. I don't know if this was right. That kind of grumbling discomfort, oh my goodness, for you and I to remove that friction, if we can take that out of the transaction for someone and we can level up by building trust, by forecasting what we see, that experience that you bring in every transaction is such a flex. It's such a way to simplify the process at such a high level that people go, oh, thank goodness. Again, working by referral is one of the best ways to move forward. When you think about working by referral, that time, energy, and effort that you and I spend pouring into that client and then asking for business from people they know and love, that's the best lead you could ever get. That is the best and most effective lead you could ever get. So really, I want you to think about those things. Now, finally, showing agility in this coming market is going to be huge. And y'all were amazing at it this past year. You were absolutely masters at agility because we saw that. We saw that with the rule changes. They were forecasted in March and April, and then they came out with new forms all through the summer. Heck, we got new forms a couple weeks ago. Your agility of mindset to help buyers and sellers persevere through the last 5 years has been astounding. Don't stop. See, that kind of tenacity that you've shown, I want you to continue, but you need to articulate it to the seller. See, they need to understand how you show up every day. I always would tell folks that I wake up every day unemployed. My goal is to take such good care of you that I stayed employed for life because you're constantly referring people that you know and love to me so I can take care of them just as I got to take care of you. And so I always like to showcase like, all right, I'm listing your house today. These are things to watch in your neighborhood. If this house closes at this, this is our benchmark. It went under contract. This is the highest priced house. Went under contract. If it sells close to where it's listed for, we're in great shape. If it goes lower, we might need to look at a price adjustment. And so those are benchmarks of what to watch that shows your agility, but also shows how you're paying attention and your mindfulness in the marketplace. That makes an impact when you're pulling CMAs, you're communicating that information forward. There's so much as we look at 2025 together that I really want to empower you that you have these tools. You already have them at your fingertips. And sometimes it's just a repackaging. It's knowing that sellers need to move. Folks that have been maybe rate bound for the last few years, their life is changing in such ways they can no longer stay that way. They've got to move forward. And so as a result, how you show up and you start to break down the process with them is going to make all the difference. So I want to invite you to customize your services. I want you to take a moment and look at your listing package and say, okay, this is my upfront strategy. But when you and I meet, we're going to customize this to your needs. Are we selling for time or money? Are there other people we need to consult? Where are you going when you sell? Have we already identified that? And that strategy we adjust. But then when we get under contract negotiations, how I show up is protecting that strategy and you knowing that things may have adjusted for you. Maybe your job needs you there faster. The kids need to start school. All of those things could be occurring. Gosh, it could be as simple as we've got family coming for summer and we've got to be in the new house and moved by then. So what do we need to do in listing today to get on the market by late February, to get sold by April so we can be in our new house by May 1st so we can have graduation? See what I mean? There's a lot of pre-planning in that contract and negotiation. And this is what I would also say in the contract and negotiation. The script I love using is, it's not about getting a buyer, it's about keeping the right buyer. If we get multiple offers, cool, our right buyer is in there, but let's figure out where we're at. And that's where I love using, and we've got it on the listing toolkit for you. It's the multiple offer net sheet. And you can lay out each offer with all the terms and conditions. And it's basically a one sheet, and it's a quick at a glance: price, earnest money, down payment, loan type, inspection period, any other contingencies, HOA fees, concessions, etc. And then you can see the net, and the seller can go, oh my gosh, I've got 8 offers. This makes a lot of sense. And then you can look at that offer, all, 25 pages or whatever it may be, and it doesn't feel as overwhelming. You've been able to walk them through how to make good decisions by looking at numbers and keeping it very businesslike. Now, contract to close, y'all, this is where you shine. The first 2 are really important, obviously. That upfront strategy, laying it out, that is something that you spend a lot of time pre-gaming before you even meet people. What does it look like to buy in this market? What are prices selling? What are houses selling for? What is the price of the sweet spot? What repairs need to be made? You've got that. The contract negotiations, that's going to be a messy in the middle, maybe for a few hours, a few days, maybe a week. But that contract to close, keeping everybody calm and focused forward, this is where you really shine, because your ability to communicate what's behind the curtain and keep people moving forward. Sometimes it's your own client, sometimes it's the other agent, but your ability to keep all the balls moving in the right direction with lender, title, escrow, attorney, home inspector, other inspectors, HOA, appraisal, you are the master. And I don't want you to hide that behind a curtain. I want you to explain that process of it. Now we're here. This is what we can expect next. The time frame for this is now. Anytime you do that, it invites people to their own party. They feel a part of it and they feel very confident. So definitely contract to close. Don't gloss over that. That is your magic hour. That is the opportunity to really show who you are as a professional and what makes a difference. So I promised you a couple of toolkits. I promised you all these resources. So the exp.com/sellers, this toolkit I'm super proud of, and we're continuing to add more information. Leo just updated a video for you here, and we want to make sure that you've got access to it. So if you go to exptoolkit.com/sellers, it's there. We've got updated open house information for you, and we're going to have very soon updated listing kit for you. I'm really excited about it. Also, if you're looking for more information on the toolkit for Canva, we've got that. It's all of the information that you can download, how you can interact with it, a quick FAQ. And then finally, we recognize that the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, we've got new rules coming here at the end of the month. We want you prepared. We want you safe. As a result, we put together this toolkit to help you update your listings, or your websites, as well as any of your outreach, open houses. It's all here in the lead protection toolkit. We want you prepared at every step. And eXp, we're really your partner in it. I'm so proud to be with you. I'm so excited for what 2025 looks like. And at the end of the day, about you and how we can take care of you. So check out the other master classes. They've been amazing. Guys, happy 2025. And I look forward to seeing you at a class